It is another Wednesday night, which means it's time for another edition of RSN Trackside, powered by Bob Johnson Auto Group on Rock Sports Network, Western New York's home for motorsports. Marty Scala with you live inside the Slide Job Studios. Kelvin LaPierre is in somewhere new. I know that at least. But both him and I are back to 100%. We are over our colds, and now we can talk some racing. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Just finished moving, and now it's getting ready to head on vacation for a little night race action at Bristol this weekend.
You're headed to Bristol. Night race. That's awesome. Didn't know if that was going to happen this weekend or not, but glad you're going. But we got a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it. RSN Trackside is powered by Bob Johnson Auto Group. They carry 18 different auto manufacturers, ranging from Chevy to Ford to Toyota, and many more in 25 locations throughout the state. Choose from thousands of vehicles in stock and check them out online at bobjohnsonautogroup.com to find a location near you. All right. How should we begin with this Kansas recap? How should we begin with this? I don't promote smoking or vaping, but I'm going to go Stephen A on ya. How do? 2 for 2 to begin the
It only took you all
playoffs.
year. Only took you all year.
2 for 2 to begin the playoffs. I took Larson at Darlington, Reddick at Kansas. You're welcome, America. Kelvin, what you think?
You could think that late race caution for the win for Reddick. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. He was not the best car at the race. One of the top five, but he was definitely not the most deserving to win that. I think that was Larson or Hamlin at that point. But Hamlin, I believe, made a mistake at one point or another, and that cost him the race there again. But better race this weekend. But hey, 45 cars now won 3 races with 3 different drivers at Kansas. So that tells you that that team has figured out Kansas one way or another. A win's a win. Got to give him credit. Tyler Reddick advances. I believe you had him as one of your first 4 out going into the next round. So
Reddick?
there's
No,
something you're wrong
I did
about.
not. No, you're thinking of Bell.
I thought you had Reddick out.
Nope,
I
I had
had to
Reddick.
find my notebook when I unpacked and see what I wrote down for you.
So,
But no, I thought overall Kansas has given us some of the best racing so far in the playoffs. Not that last week, 2 weeks ago, I mean, was terrible. Darlington was not terrible by any means, but Kansas the last few years has been probably the best playoff race of the first 2 races.
absolutely. And, when we had that final caution come out for Chris Buescher and his flat tire, I looked at strategy being a very interesting situation. Would we see drivers go for 2 tires or 4 tires? I personally thought that 2 tires was the way to go. So when Suarez stayed out and restarted as the leader, I knew he was a sitting duck. So I thought that this race was going to be between Eric Jones and Joey Logano. But, Las Vegas, I feel like when we had that late race caution, it was a 2-tire situation. Las Vegas is a faster track than Kansas is, so I thought 2 tires is the way to go. I thought Kansas would be the place to go 2 tires, but Tyler Reddick has had that huge slipstream and took it to bed, took it to victory lane. We'll just say that.
Yeah, and I think if you're Joey Logano and you're Eric Jones, I think they also thought at the same time you were going to get more drivers to take 2 tires, and that just wasn't the case. You had everybody else behind them take 4, and then that made everybody a sitting duck. And I can tell you right now that caution though actually really helped Joey Logano because he was not having another good points day as far as playoff points are concerned in advancing. And that late caution, you throw it out there. I believe he ends up with a top 10 finish on the green and white checkered finish, and he was probably looking to finish somewhere between 15th and 19th place. So it turns around, gives him a good solid points day at the end of the day. And now we're looking at, instead of him being below the cut line, I believe he's above the cut line. Just barely, but he's above the cut line.
Let's get to the other story in all this. We go from the top of the leaderboard all the way down to the bottom. Martin Truex Jr. flat tire early in the race, and he DNFs after 4 laps or so. Something that nobody expected. The number one seed coming on into the playoffs this weekend is in a situation where he has to perform very well, 7 points below the cut line. And Bristol this weekend is a track that he has not had a top 10 at in just over a decade.
Yeah, and you go back to the Bristol Dirt Race, and guess what? We're not running on the dirt this time. And you go to the Truck Series where he dominated on the dirt. He dominated, and then he ran well and got caught up in a wreck the last two Bristol Dirt races. Nothing to his fault, but now we're going to the asphalt. He hasn't had a top 10, as you mentioned, in over a decade. We got drivers below the cut line. McDowell runs well at Bristol if he doesn't get caught up into a wreck. He can go out and steal a win. Then he's out. Martin Truex is out if he wins. You got, I believe, Kevin Harvick is either a point or two below. He's good at Bristol. He came in 2 years ago. He came in second place to Kyle Larson. That was the Chase Elliott Kevin Harvick fighting situation. Kyle Busch is good here at Bristol on the asphalt. So Martin Truex Jr.'s got his work cut out for him, and I think this would be the first time that the regular season point series champion may get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. And 9 times out of 10, you're making it to the finals, and you're going all the way to the final four, or at least having a shot at the final four with those 15 extra playoff points. Those came in handy because if he didn't win it and William Byron found a way to win it, he'd be in a Michael McDowell situation, which is a must win going into Bristol.
So Truex 7 points below, Bubba Wallace 19 points below, and he looked like he was going to have a good day, and then he suffered a flat tire. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 22 points below, and no luck for Michael McDowell in this round of 16, 40 points below. He'll have to win at Bristol this weekend if he wants to get it done. Like you said, Kelvin, McDowell ran pretty well at Bristol last season. So that's how the playoff picture looks. If we get you to the race results, obviously Tyler Reddick the winner, Denny Hamlin second, Eric Jones third, Kyle Larson fourth, Joe Logano fifth, Chase Elliott sixth, Kyle Busch seventh, Christopher Bell eighth, Brad Keselowski ninth, Alex Bowman rounds out the top 10 after that one. Let's talk about the Xfinity Series as the playoffs were set for that one. And the last driver to make the playoffs in, before we get to talking John Hunter Nemechek here, Kelvin, Parker Kligerman, the Big Machine Racing 48 team, Scott Borchetta's team, is in the playoffs for the first time ever. That's a feel-good moment.
Yeah, it's a really good feel-good moment, and we almost didn't get that feel-good moment, right? Because Brandon Jones ends up finishing second. If he would have won that race, Parker Kligerman's out. Brandon Jones gets in because he gets a win. And it came down to a very exciting last race. I wish that Bristol was still in the cutoff in the playoff race for the Xfinity Series, but Kansas gave us one hell of a race. Parker gets himself in, goes out, does pit lane coverage the following day on Sunday for the Cup race. They're talking about it in the poster in the pre-race show. He's all excited. His owners are excited. His team's excited. Just goes to show you the talent that Parker has, because this is an underfunded car, and he got them into the playoffs for the first time ever. I'm really happy for Parker. I'm happy for the team. Now it's put up, shut up, and let's see what you do at Bristol, right? Let's go out, have a good solid round at Bristol. We got in. Let's chip away at where we're behind now and move forward.
And Kligerman finished really well. Fourth place finish for Parker. That's an incredible finish for that 48 team. You got to give it up for him on that run. But John Hunter Nemechek dominated the race, led 154 of 200 laps. Brandon Jones second, Sheldon Creed third, Parker Kligerman fourth, Austin Hill rounded out the top five. To the truck race, that was a heck of a race as well, especially in those final laps. Christian Eckes only led the final 2 laps of the race to get it done. First off, coming to the white flag, he's high side 3 wide for the race lead. He backs out of it in turns 1 and 2, gets a huge draft off of both, I think it was Taylor Gray and Zane Smith, shoots all the way down to the bottom, entering turn number 3, takes the win away. That was a crazy finish, and Eckes has just shown so much speed in that number 19 truck that what Derek Kraus couldn't do.
Yeah, and let's not forget he was sideways. They were sideways.
He was loose all the way down the back straight.
we almost saw a wreck after the white flag because they were 3 wide. And there was a driver that was primed in position to take the win if that happened. And unfortunately, didn't get it done. But hey, we go out and you see Eckes go out there and lead the final 2 laps. And it was just insane, the battle, number one. Number two, he has had the speed. I don't know where it's come from because, as you just mentioned, Kraus could not find it. Kraus had speed. He didn't deliver the finishes. Something would happen, and his race day would be over. And now you're seeing the benefits of having a driver who can handle and make the race truck do and handle all the way through a race. And now you're seeing Eckes move on, and we see Zane Smith have another strong run, but still not quite back to where he was last year. And Matty D gets his team into the playoffs, but they fall 6 points short. They're knocked out in this round. We go to Bristol this weekend, another racetrack where anything can happen, and we're looking pretty good as far as racing all weekend.
Absolutely. So Eckes the win. I think it has to do with more experience that he has in the trucks than Derek Kraus did. So Eckes the winner, Taylor Gray second, Matt DiBenedetto third, Corey Heim fourth, Zane Smith rounded out the top 5. Everyone going into Bristol this weekend, and the drivers out of the playoffs as well, because remember that was a cutoff race. Out of the playoffs, Matt DiBenedetto, who was in that must-win situation, as Kelvin mentioned. Also out of the playoffs is Matt Crafton. So everyone reseeded, and it's very tight when it comes to playoffs. Corey Heim is still the leader in points, 8 points above the cut line. So just think of that as we head into Bristol this coming weekend, where we could get our first championship contender. The wins mean everything. So let's step aside and take our first break of the night. When we come back, it'll be the good, bad, and ugly power rankings, and we'll talk about the news around NASCAR. Got a lot of stuff out this week, some news to talk about. So stay with us. RSN Trackside is around the corner.
Is your lease expiring in the next 6 months? Have you made arrangements for your next vehicle to be available when it does expire? We all know what's going on with chip shortages. You can't find a ride. Bob Johnson says, let's get ahead of it. Order the exact vehicle you want to enjoy. When it arrives, it's got your name on it. We found...
And a lot of folks don't.
Is your lease expiring in the next 6 months? Have you made arrangements for your next vehicle to be available when it does expire? We all know what's going on with chip shortages. You can't find a ride. Bob Johnson says, let's get ahead of it. Order the exact vehicle you want to enjoy. When it arrives, it's got your name on it. We found out that some dealers were pricing cars way over the sticker price. That's not how we work. Bob Johnson has grown during the past few years, and with 24 dealerships, we now offer virtually every brand there is. While others are marking up over sticker, with the best deal in America, you'll save an additional $500 when you pre-order any new car, $1,000 with any truck or SUV. That's on top of our famous value pricing. So let's get ahead of it and order soon. Bob Johnson Auto Group. This is where the savings are.
Bob Johnson's got your ride. Bob Johnson.
If you're living with pain or recovering from surgery and don't know where to start, Lattimore Physical Therapy can help. The Lattimore Promise includes an individual diagnosis with a highly trained licensed physical therapist on your first visit, a personalized treatment plan, communication with your doctor, and a continued personal care plan. You're never more than minutes away from pain relief. Visit LattimorePT.com.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
We start with fresh, never frozen ground beef, follow it with our homemade meat hot sauce, and finish it with your choice of toppings, always made to order. Our world's greatest cheeseburgers will make you say,
Gimme, 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 feel great.
The Red Wings are home this weekend. Friday is Star Wars night with...
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food, we did that too. A separate place to smoke and play, we even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
The Wings are home for the final 3 games of the season this weekend. Friday is Deaf Culture Night with fireworks. Saturday is Hall of Fame Night and Fan Appreciation Night with fireworks. Sunday, kids can run the bases. For tickets, visit redwingsbaseball.com.
Welcome back to RSN Trackside, powered by Bob Johnson Auto Group. Next week, it's the Bob Johnson Auto Group College Football Game of the Week on Rock Sports Network as the Golden Eagles host Lycoming, second home game of the year. Kickoff at noon. Again, that's a week from Saturday on your home for college football. That is Rock Sports Network. RSN Trackside is brought to you by Bill Gray's, home of the world's greatest cheeseburger since 1938. Every Wednesday, $2 off kids meals featuring burgers, Zweigle's hot dogs, and more. Also at select locations, you can watch the race and grab some food and a drink at a Bill Gray's tap room. Find a location near you at BillGrays.com. Gimme, 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 Bill Gray's. All right. Time for the good, bad, ugly of the weekend. Kelvin, I'll let you go first on Power Rankings because you missed out on last week. The good of me for this weekend, I would love to give it to Tyler Reddick. I'm actually going to give it to Eric Jones. He's actually been running pretty consistent these past few weeks with Legacy Motor Club and that 43. We saw a story written by Jetta Fry of the AP last week on Jimmy Johnson and stuff like that, and the deal with John Hunter Nemechek with him going to Legacy. And Eric Jones has kept it completely out of his mind. It's worked out well. Great top 5 finish for the driver of the 43. The bad of the weekend, that's tough. If I were to give a bad on the weekend, I'll give you my ugly, and my ugly is probably going to be Goodyear tires because of what happened with Martin Truex Jr., the flat tire on lap number 4. If that doesn't happen, he has a solid day. I don't know if I could really give a bad of the weekend, Kelvin. What about you?
Oh, well, the good of the weekend is going to go to there's actually quite a lot that was good this weekend.
Oh, yes,
but
it was a great race.
Everything was good this weekend. Like, all 3 races were good. So you know what? I'll give credit to NASCAR for putting Kansas back into the playoff picture and giving us 3 solid good races. We got the closing race for the Xfinity Series, which was good. So you know what? Let's give the good to Parker Kligerman and his crew, battling their way in there, getting into the playoffs for the first time in that owner's history. Then we go to the bad. There is a bad, and that's the I believe it was Ross Chastain's pit crew jumping over the gun too early cost Ross Chastain, who was having a solid run late in stage 2. It ended up costing him a decent finish, I believe. Here, yeah, he finished 13th. Probably had the top 7 car. Ended up 13th. The ugly. Martin Truex Jr. and Goodyear getting their tire situation, but you never know. They could have had the tires set up weird to where Goodyear said, "Hey, you put too much give in these, and they're going to break and they're going to blow," especially with the thinner sidewall. So you can't blame it all on Goodyear. So Martin Truex Jr. and his crew got to take some credit on that one.
Will you ready for some power rankings?
I think I have him in order now.
Power Rankings brought to you by Lattimore Physical Therapy of North Chila, an outpatient physical therapy clinic trained a variety of health conditions and restoring optimal health, providing personal individualized care. Give them a call at 585-594-1688 or visit their location at 3237 Union Street next to the post office. Not there, visit any of their other 27 locations in the area, including the Brockport location on the Wegmans Plaza. Alrighty, what do you got?
I will not lie. I have gone all playoff drivers until we get to the round of 8. Because after that, we only have 8 playoff drivers, so 2 non-playoff drivers can sneak their way back in. Okay. But coming in at number 10, on the bubble, coming in, have not had a good 2 races, finds himself 7 points out, Martin Truex Jr. Regular season champion, gets those 15 extra bonus points. 2 bad races in a row, though, has him looking at 7 points out, going into a place he does not have a top 10 in almost a decade. Has me worried that we're going to see our first regular season champion not make it to the round of 12 after having 2 bad finishes in a row. That takes me to number 9, Kevin Harvick. Yes, he's run well late in the runs, but he's not getting the stage points needed to be consistent. If you want to get to a championship 4, what do you need to do? You need to continuously be battling for stage points. Kevin Harvick is battling it between 10th to 15th at the end of every stage. 1 or 2 playoff points is not going to get it done if you want to advance far, especially when you don't have a win all year. So I'm a little worried on Kevin Harvick, but we are going to Bristol, somewhere he runs particularly well at when the pressure is on. Takes me to number 8, Joey Logano. Yes, back-to-back runs where he has top 5s, but they've come with late cautions. They're not getting stage points either. Has me worried there as well. Ford seems to be lacking right now, and that is why I think Joey Logano is on the outside looking. He's in for now, but if he keeps going the way he's going, the brakes don't keep falling his way, he's in trouble. He's not going to make the round of 8. I think he's safe to go on to the round of 12 because guess what? We're at Bristol. He's won at Bristol 2 times before. I fully expect him to run well here this weekend in advance. Takes me to number 7, Kyle Busch. 2 weeks in a row, we were talking about Kyle Busch bad qualifying and spinning out in qualifying. Did it at Darlington, did it this past weekend at Kansas. Has me worried that if he keeps qualifying poorly, eventually something's going to happen. We do have a restrictor plate track in Talladega coming up in October. You qualify in the back, you're staying in the back all night because you don't want to get in the wreck until stage 3. So Kyle Busch, you wanted to make an advance in the deep playoff run. I picked you to win it all. You've got to kind of get your stuff figured out when it comes to qualifying. But the runs have been consistent, which is good. He has the speed. So now we go on. Where are we at? Number 6? I don't have it written down. Brad Keselowski. I think Brad Keselowski and RFK have been the 2 best cars as far as teammates in these playoffs. And that goes for his teammate Chris Buescher, who is ahead of him. A 9th place finish for Brad Keselowski this past weekend has him strongly in to the round of 12 as of right now. Chris Buescher, another solid run until the tire blew and brought out the late race caution. He was on his way to another top 10 finish. Outstanding 2 months for this team as far as points. So he is number 5?
6.
So number 6. So let's go to number 4. This one might shock you a little bit. I have William Byron at number 6.
You said Keselowski's number 6. You mean Byron's 5?
No, Chris Buescher's number 5.
Okay, Buescher's 5.
I've rolled them both together since they're teammates.
So Byron's 4.
Yeah, so Byron's number 4. Decent run. 15th place finish, though, after coming up with a broken suspension part in qualifying, was able to change it out, or in practice, able to change it out, keep his qualifying run and pit selection, because NASCAR deemed since it's a single source part, they didn't alter it. It was broken from the manufacturer. They let them keep it. We'll talk about that later, I'm sure, because that was a hot topic issue all weekend. So that brings us to the top 3, if I'm not mistaken. Top 3, I think, are simple. I'm going Denny Hamlin, number 3. Why? He doesn't have the win, but he's probably the second most consistent car out there. Another 2nd place finish, was running well at Darlington, ran well all weekend here at Kansas. Number 2, Tyler Reddick. He got the win. He gets number 2. It's playoff time. It's what are you doing for me in the playoffs? Tyler Reddick gets a win, locks himself in, gets those 5 extra bonus points for the next round. That brings us to number 1. By far the best driver so far at Darlington and at Kansas. Led 99 laps or 92 laps this past weekend at Kansas. 100 and something laps at Darlington. Kyle Larson is the obvious number 1 in the playoffs.
Alrighty. I know to begin my power rankings here, I know you're already going to be giving me an F for my grade. Because Chase Elliott is at number 10. Despite the contact with Kyle Larson, a 6th place finish for Chase Elliott. 8th in the owner's standings, I believe it is, when you look at that playoff picture. Yeah, so it is 8th. Joey Logano is also back in my power rankings. He's number 9. The reason why, he's got that 13.3 average finish in the last 6 races, and he had a good run. Nearly won the race last Sunday, so he's up to number 9 in my power rankings. Martin Truex Jr., he's number 8 on my power rankings because of the lap 4 incident, and it's now 7 points below the cut line. Not good for MTJ. Number 6, I feel I may be going a little bit harsh on him, but I'm going to give William Byron number 6 because he had spun in stage 1, but he avoided damage. Nice rebound. He finished in the 15th spot. Brad Keselowski's number 5 on my power rankings. He finished 9th, led 23 laps, won stage 2. If the caution flag doesn't come out, it's probably a top 5 finish for him, and looks good to make the round of 12. Number 4, Chris Buescher. Blew a tire with 7 laps to go. He also would have had a top 5 finish if it weren't for that. Finished 27th, however, though, with those playoff points he got during the regular season, 13 points above the cut line. Number 3, Tyler Reddick. Blew a tire. That was Buescher. Reddick avoided mistakes to win after going 3 wide for the lead at the white flag, a second and a first in the playoffs. He's number 3. Denny Hamlin, number 2, a dominant race car, but he just couldn't find victory lane. Finished second after having a car to win before the final yellow. You and I agree. Young Money's number 1, Kyle Larson, led the most laps at 99 and a 4th place finish for him on the day. What do you think?
Not bad. Take Chase Elliott out of there, we're doing all right.
I'll give you a B on the power rankings. How's that?
You'll get a B minus just because Chase Elliott's in there.
Okay.
Like, just because Chase isn't there, like I get it. I get why you put him in there, but he's not running for a championship. So no matter what, he's a 17th or below finishing in the point standings. So,
all right. Let's talk about a couple of things here. First off, let's address the William Byron situation here and the reason why he did not start from the back. I learned a little bit more about it on Sirius XM Speedway, and I think they talked about it being a mono ball. Do I have that correct?
Yeah.
It was a mono something, but
yeah.
It's right between the upper and lower control arms on the suspension. And pretty much you have to push it on the bottom, then pull it on the top so that fits on in together. And the mono ball was broken by the single source supplier. I don't know who supplies it. I can't remember. But it was broken, and so because of a defection in the source, NASCAR decided, you know what, we won't let you go to the back. We'll let you stay up near the front.
Yeah, and again, it doesn't help that it's a Hendrick car, right? If this is any other car and they let this happen, you're not going to have that situation. But the fact that it's a Hendrick car is why this is such a big deal. Well, people are making a big deal out of it. I think NASCAR would have made this decision for any driver or any crew, so to speak. But the fact that it's a Hendrick car and everybody thinks Hendrick is the god of motorsports when it comes to NASCAR, they're getting favored here. Granted, I'll say every time Chase Elliott has something wrong, NASCAR sides with him. This is no big deal. I think they made the right call.
Well, speaking of Chase Elliott, let's address the other hot topic coming out of the weekend. When everyone was coming out of pit road for the final pit stop, Elliott and Larson made contact as Larson was merging back in. Elliott heading on the brakes. And coming off of pit road, Elliott was not too happy about Kyle Larson. Kelvin, I'll let you take this first. I know you got a lot to say about it with it being Chase Elliott. What are your thoughts?
Chase Elliott was in the wrong, and he admitted that as much yesterday on Sirius XM. Chase Elliott was wrong. Where's Kyle Larson supposed to go when you're 3 wide on pit road? Is he supposed to not bump into you when there's a car pulling out of the pit stall in front of him and you have a car? Chase has a car on the outside of him. He's supposed to slow down and lose spots because you don't want to nudge your teammate. Like, I get it, but at the same time, guess what? Kyle Larson's in a championship hunt. Chase, you're not. Ease up a little bit, let your teammate get a spot so he doesn't have to get around you on the racetrack. Then after the race, don't get in your teammate's grill inside the race car and then say, I said nothing to him, when everybody knows that you're mad at him. We all have eyes. We all saw the video. We all saw you lean into his race car and say something to him. Like, just man up and say you made a mistake. And he eventually ended up doing that. Took a few extra days, but he finally did it.
So Danielle Trotta talked about this on Track on Sirius XM. A piece of it was posted onto Twitter, and I agreed with a majority of it. So Chase Elliott, if I were to guess right now, are Hendrick Motorsports with all the experience he has, he's probably the number 1 driver. If not the number 2 driver, probably number 2 with him not being in the playoffs and Kyle Larson is in. Larson would be the number 1 driver here. yes, I can understand some contact on pit road. Pit road completely tight, trying to get out of there at 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour if you want to put in the 5 mile an hour allowance there. And Larson was trying to avoid getting Keselowski. That's the situation, and so Larson had nowhere to go. That was something where that's just normal pit road racing coming off of there. But for Chase Elliott to hit Kyle Larson back, excuse me, coming out for pit road, completely, excuse me, completely uncalled for. Yes, just something you cannot do. I know Rick Hendrick and Jeff Gordon, they've all got pleasant attitudes at Hendrick Motorsports, but I hope at least one of those two went up to Chase Elliott or told him at the Monday meeting and told him this is not okay, this is not acceptable. Kyle Larson is going for a championship. Heck, what if something happens to Larson on that overtime restart from contact with Chase Elliott? He has a flat tire possibly. His day's done. He's likely going into Bristol where he's going to have to point his way and have to have a good finish. So, and this has been a situation for Chase Elliott throughout the entire season, as Danielle Trotta mentioned. I think it's an attitude situation. Charlotte, he got Denny Hamlin, paid him back after Hamlin put Elliott in the wall. Trying to think of some other examples here this season. Chase wasn't too happy after his Xfinity Series run at Pocono when we talked with him post-race. I don't know if there are any other examples you can think of this year, Kelvin, but someone needs to tell Chase Elliott he needs to cool down. He is not the golden boy of the sport. You can't get everything.
He's pulling a Tom Brady, right?
Yes.
When things don't go your way, you lash out. This season has been an utter failure for Chase Elliott.
Yes, it has.
And he knows it. So he knows that he's riding around with nothing to win, nothing to gain, but a win. And he don't care. That's what you're going to get from Chase Elliott until February of 2024 and until they hit Daytona. Next year, his attitude will change because hopefully he doesn't go out week 3 of the season, go snowboarding and break his leg, right? And miss 7 weeks or 6 weeks. And then he doesn't go out and get suspended for a week for intentionally wrecking somebody. So just has not been the year he's expected, and he's lashing out because of it.
Absolutely. And he's lashing out on his teammates, which is something that you absolutely cannot do. So let's talk silly season because we had a couple interesting pieces. Not come all together, but a couple of pieces of the puzzle that could be solved this week. Who knows? The first off, Chris Rice posted on Twitter earlier today that an announcement is coming Friday on who's expected to be the driver of the number 31 for Colleague Racing. Now, this is expected to be announced Friday afternoon at Bristol Motor Speedway. There is a media availability. It is Friday at 1:45 p.m. where Colleague Racing is expected to make this announcement. Couple of deals that could possibly be. The first possible deal here is, I don't think this is the likely one, Zane Smith, because he said, I believe he said this on SiriusXM, that he has a ride set for next season. He just cannot announce anything yet. Could be Zane Smith, because we don't know what he's doing next year. Maybe another year in trucks next year, but I don't think he's going to do that. I think he wants to move up to Xfinity or even Cup. The other announcement could be Noah Gragson. The reason why Noah Gragson, NASCAR announced earlier this week, he has been reinstated. I did not expect his suspension to go that quick. I thought it was going to be a longer road to recovery process for him. But a quicker deal where I can understand now from Jimmy Johnson's perspective why he was shocked that Gragson left Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah, number one, I don't think Gragson was going to be long-term suspended by NASCAR, period. I think it was not as egregious as what Kyle Larson said during a live stream of a video game. But Jimmy Johnson also, I don't think, expected him to miss more than 2 weeks of Cup racing before he was reinstated to begin with. But now that he asked to be released, he's now back. and says he's worked on himself for the past month and has made himself a better person. We'll find out from that. But I would be shocked if it's Noah, because I think it's somebody else that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's just going back to when we talked with a couple of people at Pocono saying that there was a deal in place with a certain driver, and I think this certain driver is going up to Cup, and I think it's going to be this driver. We're going to hear his name, named Austin Hill, driving the 31 car for College Racing next year instead of Noah Gregson.
Let me check something here quickly, because I saw something. I think it was a couple weeks ago or so.
Austin Hill did say he has a deal done, but he didn't say what it was for.
It was a let's see here. Austin Hill about details of his contract extension, which signed weeks ago with RCR. Not a lot of specifics were given, so that's the thing that I'm looking at that I was concerned. I am thinking it's going to be either Noah Gregson, or I could see it honestly being Matt DiBenedetto. I don't know what's going to happen, or even Daniel Hemrick. Hemrick could move back up to the Cup
It could be
Series.
Hemrick, because Hemrick brings the sponsorship, but Colleague is good at going out and getting their own sponsorship. Like, Colleague is one of those teams you don't need to go out and bring sponsorship money, but Hemrick brings it to the team without them having to go find it. So I'd be shocked if it's Matty D. I think Matty D could go run the 10 or the 11 if Hemrick moves up and run the 10 or the 11 in the Xfinity Series. But I don't know if he's going Cup racing, even though, hey, he's got a Truck Series win now. Maybe you're right.
Absolutely. Speaking of college racing, I want to take an opportunity as well to congratulate our good friend of the show, AJ Allmendinger. Him and Tara on last Thursday, had their baby boy, Errol James Allmendinger, welcomed into the world. Mom and baby are doing amazing, and so AJ, we're really happy for you. We talked a lot about it at Pocono. If you remember that interview, that was up for a little bit before. I think it was may have been taken down by Supercars. I'm not too sure, but we talked about it with AJ, and he was hoping to have it middle of the week. And as AJ quoted, they're gonna try and make him a professional golf star.
Yeah, better a golf star than a race car driver these days. More money in the golf game.
Yes, absolutely. So, Charlotte Roval, a couple weeks from now, the cutoff race in the round of 12. They announced that NASCAR announced on SiriusXM that stage breaks will be returned. If you remember the last two road course races, they haven't had a lot of competition. Indianapolis road course, for example, only had that lap 3 yellow, then everything else was caution free. Watkins Glen, you have stage 1 go green to checkered, stage 2 then have only that one caution, and then stage 3 went green to checkered. Now that stage breaks are coming back, your thoughts?
Can we close pit road with 10 laps to go in the stages then? And
2
then
to go
only
still.
open? I know. I'm just saying. If you're bringing them back, this takes all the pit strategy out of it. It puts everybody who's inside the top 5, they're staying out to get stage points. Anybody else behind them's pitting to get better track position for stage 2, and then same thing for stage 3. Like, there's a reason you got rid of it. I understand it, but guess what? The Roval always has cautions. Turn 1 is Calamity Corner for a reason. You don't need to bring it back, because we're gonna get the cautions in Charlotte. We just do, because people don't know how to maneuver through turn 1. They just don't. So I think this is a boneheaded move on NASCAR's part, but I also understand it because they want to make it exciting because it's a playoff race. But there's also a reason that this could be disappearing from the playoffs next year.
Yeah, it could be. Who knows what will happen with that? But I like it. And the reason why I like this change is because of a tweet Michael McDowell put out that I actually kind of agree with. With that playoff atmosphere, some like it because it gives them an opportunity to make something happen on a restart, like stuffing it 5 wide bumper car style. Also erases the time gap lost on track due to the lack of actual speed. Gives the guys who can't run up front all day a shot at it. Indoor karting is entertaining too. Entertainment is subjective, so I am good if the fans want it, but is that what the fans really want? I think the fans want some competition instead of strung out F1 racing, especially during the playoffs. F1 is F1. I like F1. That can go in the other atmosphere. But NASCAR, there is just something different when it comes to road course racing. And it's with all these restarts, like Michael McDowell just explained.
Yeah, I can go without him. Want to know why? Because I know Charlotte Roval, we're going to get cautions without having restarts.
Yeah.
We're just going to.
That is true.
We're going to probably get 3 or 4 of them just on restarts alone now going into turn 1. So
let's look at the local side of things here. Big weekend coming up all around in the state on dirt modifieds. This weekend at Atlanta Legends Raceway, the Gerald Harris Memorial. I will be in attendance of that one, covering that. Will be a fun season finale, my first ever Gerald Harris Memorial race. I have been busy the last few years, whether it be Bristol or a game, etc. So, but also this weekend, a huge race for the Short Track Super Series, the Fonda 200, 50K to win. Looking forward to that one. That is always a huge one. The first of many long distance dirt modified races. You know what that means? Big money season is finally here, Kelvin.
yeah, and with big money comes big racing and comes big names. And guess what? We usually get a few surprise names that go out and win big money. And that's what I'm looking forward to.
I'll tell you guys this right now at the moment. Obviously, we'll have coverage of the Gerald Harris Memorial here. I'll actually be having some post-race interviews up on the Trackside page. And reason why is I actually won't be on the broadcast this weekend. I'll let the explanations take place by the regular guy, Doug Elkins, although I probably just broke that out. But I will still be there and with interviews. For Fonda 200, guy I recommend following is Brady Hauser. And for those that don't know Brady, he is the host of his own podcast, just like we are. I think it's Life in the Fast Lane. I think it's called. And he has got a lot of interviews booked for Fonda 200 week. I believe it's a live show too at Fonda. Stuart Friesen, Matt Williamson, Matt Shepard. You name it. If that's a big name modified driver that's gonna be at be racing the Fonda 200, chances are likely that Brady will be interviewing him. So definitely check that out. YouTube channel is Life in the Fast Lane, and Brady does a great job. Looking forward to seeing his coverage this weekend. Also, last weekend we were going to be at Weed Sports Speedway, and it was Cavalcade weekend. On Sunday was rained out all day. Late Saturday night features were postponed. So Weed Sport is hosting, I guess you could call it a Super Dirt Week kickoff with 4 features. You've got Empire Super Sprints and Dirt Car 358s, I believe it's the New York 6A Micros, and then Dirt Car Sportsman. Now, Weed Sport was not scheduled to do their Super Dirt Week kickoff like they've normally done in the past few years in October, but perfect delay. Bring the fans out to Weed Sport on Super Dirt Week. Tickets just $10, 17 under, get you in for free. I'm selling Weed Sports Speedway some free advertisements, but Weed Sport's a heck of a track, and you're in for a heck of a race come October with all 4 features.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great time, and for only $10, they better pack the stands there. I mean, you're only right down the road. It's not that far from Syracuse to Weed Sports, so you should show up.
Absolutely. I may show up for that race too. I'm not too sure yet when I'm gonna head out for Super Dirt Week next month, whether it be Thursday or maybe even get there a little bit early and go to Weed Sport on Tuesday. So, but anyway, let's step aside, take our final break. When we come back, gonna preview the weekend at Bristol, baby. So stay with us. RSN Trackside is around the corner.
Hi, my name is Henry, and I want to welcome you to Batavia Downs Gaming. We want you to love it, not just like it here. We went to our customers and asked them what we can do better. You said you wanted a hotel, so we built one. More and better food, we did that too. A separate place to smoke and play, we even did that. Batavia Downs Gaming and Hotel is the right size with the right people in the right location. Batavia Downs Gaming. Come here to dine, stay, and play.
The Wings are home for the final 3 games of the season this weekend. Friday is Deaf Culture Night with fireworks. Saturday is Hall of Fame Night and Fan Appreciation Night with fireworks. Sunday, kids can run the bases. For tickets, visit redwingsbaseball.com.
We start with fresh, never frozen ground beef. Follow it with our homemade meat hot sauce. And finish it with your choice of toppings, always made to order. Our world's greatest cheeseburgers will make you say,
Gimme, 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 Bill Gray.
Smooth sculpted lines, impressive hardware, aggressive stance. It can only mean one thing. 'Tis the season to get out and tailgate. Right now at every Bob Johnson, buy any new or used truck, we'll throw in a Mafia-ready folding table absolutely free. Bob Johnson, this is where the savings are.
Bob Johnson.
If you're living with pain or recovering from surgery and don't know where to start, Lattimore Physical Therapy can help. The Lattimore Promise includes an individual diagnosis with a highly trained licensed physical therapist on your first visit, a personalized treatment plan, communication with your doctor, and a continued personal care plan. You're never more than minutes away from pain relief. Visit LattimorePT.com.
Lattimore Physical Therapy.
Welcome back to RSN Trackside, powered by Bob Johnson Auto Group. Hey, when we get done here with our broadcast in just a bit, make sure you tune in onto the main Rock Sports Network page. Bill Gray's High School Soccer Game of the Week between Spencerport and Churchville Chili in girls soccer. I was on the call, I think it was Monday. Yeah, it was Monday for the Spencerport Aquinas game. That was a heck of a defensive battle, and Spencerport took the win in double overtime. So definitely recommend tuning on in once we're done here. Mike Rose on the call for that matchup. So let's go to Bristol Motor Speedway. Preview this weekend's event. 3 races, Cup, Xfinity trucks. Obviously, we're going to focus on Cup here first. And the story I want to look at coming on in here first off is RFK Racing. Dominant cars last year on the asphalt at Bristol or the concrete at Bristol. Can they dominate again? I feel like they've got a really good chance at doing it.
Yeah, the way that Chris Buescher's run the last 8 weeks, I don't see why not. I don't see why he should not be the favorite going in. But they're going to give, obviously, that favorite to Kyle Larson, then probably Denny Hamlin. Chris Buescher will probably be a 3 or 4. Brad Keselowski, though, if Brad Keselowski doesn't have the tire issues or the pit issue last year, we're probably looking at Brad Keselowski winning at Bristol last year, not Chris Buescher. So I think those two deservingly need to be favorites. If not inside the top 5, definitely inside the top 10 come race week on Saturday.
Absolutely. We'll just have to see what happens on the RFK side. Obviously, I think we know who is surprising us below the cut line. That is Martin Truex Jr. Could he bump somebody out of the playoffs? Obviously, it would have to come down to somebody making a mistake. But who would be your best driver to make the playoffs, or for Truex to knock out the playoffs?
If he's gonna knock anybody out, I could see Jesus. Oof. I think if you're anywhere from 8th on up, you're probably good. But I could see Ross Chastain also having a bad day.
Could possibly 18 points above the cut.
Like that's the only one. I think Harvick's in for a good day. Logano, I think, is going to have a good day. I think Buescher's going to have a good day, and I also think Bell's going to have a good day. So the only one if anything, maybe Ross Chastain, and that's just because he hasn't been the Ross Chastain of old, i.e., before Hendrick said something.
I hate to tell you this, but the one guy I have that could get knocked out by Martin Truex Jr. would be Kyle Busch, and the reason why I think it would be Kyle Busch is because Kyle. Remember, we look at RCR's short track program. It has not been up to par this season. And so if Kyle Busch wants to have a good day, he needs to hope for a couple of playoff drivers having issues. Top 15 finish would probably salvage the day, probably be an acceptable day for the driver, the number 8. Just get in there, get out of there, hope you're in the round of 12. That's what I think if you're Kyle Busch and Bristol Motor Speedway. Something I just thought of as well, Because if you remember, if you go back to what happened last year at Bristol, a lot of drivers were suffering either flat tires or power steering failures. Brian Murphy posted this on Twitter, and for those that don't know who Brian Murphy is, we had him on our show a couple years ago. He's a race car metal fabricator at Stewart Haas Racing. But NASCAR, the teams and vendors have made upgrades to the Woodward steering rack, most importantly, an optional increased bore size from 1.75 inches to 2 inches. High front toe lengths loads increased steering rack pressures, which may force fluid to bypass the pump or blow the seal out of the rack shafts. The volume of the big bore assembly substantially reduces the pressure. So that could be a big help going into Bristol, Kelvin. I'm looking forward to seeing what goes down in that one. And let's go right into the bets for the weekend. Our odds courtesy of DraftKings Sportsbook, must be 21 and older and in the state of New York to play. And as always, please play responsibly. To the head-to-head, as we always like to begin things up here, we'll begin with the toss-up matchup, or pick-up matchup. Christopher Bell and Brad Keselowski, each minus 115. Who do you like?
I like Brad Keselowski. Got the hot hand right now.
Me too. I feel like Keselowski better on the asphalt right now, not just at Bristol, but as a whole compared to Bell these last few races. Give me Keselowski at minus 115. This one is interesting here. Actually, no, I don't want to look at that one. Let's do Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch, a small favorite, minus 120 to Blaney's minus 110. Give me Blaney here in this situation at minus 110. I just don't trust RCR's short track program compared to Penske's short track program right now. So give me Ryan Blaney minus 110.
Give me Kyle Busch.
I know why you want to go with Kyle
I will
Busch.
ride with Kyle Busch at Bristol Motor Speedway over Ryan Blaney any day of the week.
Now, finally, Chris Buescher, Martin Truex Jr. Buescher minus 130, Martin Truex Jr. plus 100. And I know that it seems easy to pick Buescher because he won last year and he's cooking in these last few races. Martin Truex Jr. hasn't had a top. I think it was a top 5 on this track I mentioned in a decade or so. But if you really want to cash out, like if you want to make a same race parlay, put Truex on to beat Chris Buescher. That's what I would do.
You just said it. Why am I going to put money on a guy who hasn't had the top 5 in over a decade, right? I'm going Chris Buescher all day, every day. I'm taking my money and I'm going home.
Sometimes they may want to try and let it ride for 500 laps. Who knows? So, to the big bet we go. Kyle Larson comes in as the favorite this weekend at 5.5 to 1. William Byron and Denny Hamlin each 7.5 to 1. Christopher Bell 8 to 1. Brad Keselowski 8.5 to 1. Chase Elliott 10 to 1. Kyle Busch 12 to 1. Same with Kevin Harvick and Chris Buescher. Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, a lot of 14 to 1s on the board. Who is your big bet? Who is your underdog you were watching out for very closely?
My underdog for this weekend, Michael McDowell.
Michael McDowell. All right, now to win.
This weekend is Michael McDowell.
Now to win because he has to win likely to
win
make
to
the
get
playoffs. 100 to 1 odds to win. So just a heads up, if you really want a payday and you're willing to risk your money, go with McDowell. But I am very surprised that Chris Buescher's odds are 12 to 1 to win this race. I cannot believe that they are lower than Brad Keselowski at 8.5 to 1. Chris Buescher is a bargain. Give me Buescher at 12 to 1. His top 5 as well, plus 160. How is he a plus 160? That is one you have to go with.
Especially with how his last 8 weeks have been. Like, what are they? Like, DraftKings is trying to give you money?
I don't know what DraftKings is trying to do here.
Can we go back to Martin Truex Jr. for a minute?
Yeah.
His best finish in the last 10 races at Bristol is 7th.
What year?
His average is in the 20s.
What year did he finish 7th?
21.
Okay, so a couple years ago. I'm trying to remember what
Last year he finished 36th.
Okay, yeah, I remember that because I think he had the same issues Kyle Busch had in that race. So, Xfinity Series race this weekend. Let's take a look at the odds for that. Allgaier the favorite. He is a plus 280 favorite. John Hunter Nemechek at 3-1. He's second best. Trevor Bayne, Josh Berry each 7-1. Cole Custer 8.5-1. Sam Mayer 9-1. Austin Hill 10-1. Chandler Smith 14-1. Sheldon Creed 16-1. And same with Sammy Smith for the opening round of the playoffs. If I am looking at an underdog, Sam Mayer at 9-1 is the way to go. And the reason why is a couple years ago, I think it was when you and I were at Bristol together. If not, it wasn't last year. It was when you and I were at Bristol. And Sam Mayer swept the ARCA race and the truck race all in the same day. Give me Sam Mayer.
Thank you for leaving the door wide open for me, because you did not mention his name. He runs well in the Xfinity style cars at this track. He's running this weekend in a one-off. D. Jr.
Dale Jr.
Be Dale Earnhardt Jr., baby. I bet you his odds are like 20-something to 1.
35-1.
That's right. All I need is a top 5 at 35-1.
All the DraftKings is putting on is the winner. That's it.
That's all right. They'll have the top 5 out by the time I get there.
We will see what happens. No odds for the truck race. I'm not too sure why. But let's go with predictions. And who are your 4 drivers out of the playoffs? I go first at Trucks and Cup. You go first for the Xfinity Series. So for the Truck Series, my pick to win, give me Ty Majeski.
Think Ty gets it done second time in this playoffs?
Yep.
You think Ty's getting it done? I look back at last year, and if I'm not mistaken, this was a driver that I didn't see winning last year. Ben Rhodes?
Not too bad. Both of them in Thor Sport rides, so they're pretty good at Bristol. So not bad of a pick. Xfinity Series.
Oh, here we go. Oh, you gotta go for it, right? He shocked the world, made the playoffs. Give me Parker Kligerman. Parker Kligerman runs well at Bristol if he can stay out of the bad stuff, i.e. the silly nonsense wrecking that will happen in this Xfinity Series race at some point in the 300 laps we go around.
Okay. My pick for the Xfinity race, I'm going Sam Mayer for his 3rd career win in Xfinity competition. So, alrighty.
Right.
And for the Cup Series race and my 4 drivers out of the playoffs, I'll give you my 4 drivers out of the playoffs. I am going with McDowell, Stenhouse, Bubba. I'm sorry to those 3 because I got a lot of respect for all 3 of them. It was so cool to see them in the playoffs. I love Dark Horse Mormons. Final driver out of the playoffs, I think it's going to be Truex. You know, I picked Bell to be out, but I just feel like it's going to be Truex here that will be knocked out of the playoffs. If he wins, I'll be damned. That would be pretty cool. My winner, we're going to go 3 for 3 in the playoffs with this guy. And he has been due up for a win since 2021 when he won at Talladega, and he nearly won the race last year. Give me Brad Keselowski to win on Saturday night at Bristol Motor Speedway.
Not a bad pick. Not a bad 4 out. I think you're slightly wrong. I just look at it, and I'll give you my first 4 out. McDowell, Stenhouse, Wallace. Kevin Harvick misses it.
I was thinking Harvick
Because
too
Martin
earlier.
Truex Jr. wins it, and Ross Chastain's going to be in just by a point or 2.
So you're going with Truex.
Yeah, I think Truex is going to win. No. I think Truex is going to be able to point his way in and whatnot.
Okay.
There's going to be but Harvick's going to have a worse day. Truex is going to be 8 spots above him to get 8 points instead of 7, which gives him the last spot in the round of 12. Your race winner is going to be another playoff driver. We're not going to have a surprise winner i.e. a non-playoff driver. But you're worried about the short track program called RCR. I think you forget that RCR short track program only struggles when it comes to the 3-car. Kyle Busch has actually run well the last 3 short tracks, and I think Kyle Busch is going to find his way to victory lane because this is Bristol Motor Speedway. This is his baby. Kyle Busch gets it done at Bristol Motor Speedway.
All righty. All right, so you have Kyle Busch, I have Brake Keselowski.
I'm rolling
The
with
rivalry
Triple
is
H this
renewed.
weekend.
The rivalry
Rolling
renewed.
Triple H this weekend.
All righty. All right. Hope you can cash out. Before we go, I know you're gonna have a hell of a weekend at Bristol. When you headed out and hang out with Uncle Russ.
I am leaving DC at noon tomorrow to time up meeting him right there at Bristol at the campground right around 5:30, 6 o'clock.
All right.
So I will be in Bristol. We are going to the ARCA race and the truck race. By the way, good luck to Andy J. He is running at Bristol this weekend after a miserable Kansas race weekend for him. But he does have a new car for Bristol. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing him out there. I did reach out and say, hey, if you want to watch the truck race, we'll be watching the truck race afterwards. But as you know, when they talk about the ARCA race, during the ARCA race, he's going back and delivering pizzas at some point. So he might have to take right off and get back home, deliver pizzas for football Sunday.
Possibly. So, we got a good weekend coming up at Bristol for sure. I will be watching from the comfort of my phone Saturday night, Friday night, and Thursday night. Tomorrow night, I think I'll be able to have it on the TV. Yes, that I will be. So, you have fun. You guys drink some beers and enjoy your Duke's mayonnaise and your sun drop. That's how I took it in with Uncle Russ at Bristol last year. So it's going to be a good time for you. I know that. And this weekend as well. One quick correction I do want to make. Brady's podcast is out of the fast lane, not Life in the Fast Lane, out of the fast lane. So make sure you check that out on YouTube and all the content he's got coming up this weekend from Fonda. So that'll do it for this weekend of RSN Trackside. Next week, we'll recap what happened at Bristol Motor Speedway, and then we'll preview the beginning of the round of 12, which is at Texas Motor Speedway. Shout out to Gary, as always, working behind the camera and the computer. He's Kelvin. I'm Marty. This has been RSN Trackside. So long.